So vinegars, why are they so good? Well, vinegars actually taste good. There's a lot of them that taste great. There's a lot of them that add unique flavors and other compounds to where you're going to use them. But the reason vinegars are so important, it comes down to really two things. The first is that most vinegars contain a short-chain fatty acid called acetic acid. Now, we're beginning to hear a lot about short-chain fatty acids. They are classified as a postbiotic. For those of you who are new to this channel, most of you know probiotics. Those are friendly bacteria. Most of you now have heard of prebiotics, which are the food for friendly bacteria, in general, soluble fibers. But postbiotics are the products of fermentation that bacteria or yeast or mushrooms make from fermenting these prebiotic fibers. And one of the most exciting types of postbiotics are these short-chain fatty acids. Now, probably the most famous is butyrate. Now, butyrate is kind of the holy grail of health, of gut health, of brain health, of even mitochondrial health. And butyrate is kind of the ultimate endpoint of short-chain fatty acid production. But what's important to know is that most of us need other short-chain fatty acids to be produced either by other bacteria, to be turned into butyrate by other bacteria, or we need to consume those short-chain fatty acids without depending on bacteria to do it for us. So this is where acetic acid comes in. So acetic acid is kind of numero 2 in the hierarchy of short-chain fatty acids. And we're finding more and more that the more acetic acid we can get into us, the better chance we have of getting our gut buddies the precursors they need to make butyrate. So vinegars, almost all vinegars, their major component of acids are acetic acid. Now, most vinegars have about 5% acetic acid, and it'll vary. There may be other components of these short-chain fatty acids. For instance, we'll talk about it in a minute, but apple cider vinegar has mostly acetic acid, but it has another acid called malic acid that comes from apples, but it's not very big. So the reason you want vinegars is you want the production of short-chain fatty acids, and you want to change those into butyrate, and vinegar's one of the best ways to do it. So that's why it's a healthy Coke. All right, so you see in the grocery store or in the health food store all sorts of vinegars, and you're going, oh my gosh, what do I want? Let me tell you my favorites. First of all, good old balsamic vinegar. Now, there's a wide range of balsamic vinegar. True balsamic vinegar has to come from Modena, Italy. It's made by fermenting grapes forever and ever and ever, and then aging the must. True balsamic vinegar has the highest component of bioavailable resveratrol of any compound. Resveratrol, you've heard that word. That's that miraculous polyphenol that's the subject of the French paradox. Resveratrol is in red wine. But sadly, to get enough resveratrol in red wine, you'd have to drink lots and lots and lots of bottles every day, and you're not going to do that. But balsamic vinegar concentrates that resveratrol. So it's a great source. And if you can spend the money, the more aged the balsamic vinegar, the higher the price, but the more concentrated it is and the more resveratrol. And if you really want a tasty fake Coke without that kind of vinegary taste, it's worth spending the money for a more aged balsamic vinegar. Now, I happen to like a fig balsamic vinegar. 2 reasons. Number one, still balsamic vinegar, but it also has figs that have been fermented. And figs in and of themselves are a great source of polyphenols. And if you've read my longevity paradox, you'll notice that figs are on the cover of that book because of their association with the compounds in figs with longevity. And it gives a really much smoother taste to balsamic vinegar, and it's one of my real go-tos in my pantry. And it's so delicious on some sugar-free coconut ice cream. Pour it on top. Don't squirrel up your nose until you try it. Believe me, we get balsamic vinegar poured on our ice cream all the time in Italy. Some restaurants just are shocked that we wouldn't want that balsamic vinegar brought to our table to pour on the gelato. Number 2, champagne vinegar. As the name implies, this is vinegar that takes champagne and then further ferments it into vinegar. Now, the cool thing about champagne vinegar is that it's actually got a really delicate flavor. But there's more to it than that. It turns out that champagne is, by law, required to, after you make the wine, you ferment the grapes, it has to stay on the lees. The lees are all the leftover dead yeast bodies and all the leftover polyphenols that have sunk to the bottom of the bottle. And they have to be in contact with the lees for a minimum of about 1.5 years. Vintage champagnes have to be in contact with the lees for 5 to 8 years before they're bottled. So what? It turns out that contact with all those dead yeasts and all those polyphenols, the longer they're in contact, the more postbiotics and polyphenols are absorbed into the liquid. And there are 2 studies, of course done in France, that women who drink champagne, particularly vintage champagne, have better vascular health, better vascular flexibility than women who don't drink champagne, a fact that my wife reminds me of almost on a daily basis. So champagne vinegar is going to get you the acetic acid that you're looking for, but you're also going to get a healthy dose of other polyphenols that you wouldn't have acquired from another vinegar. Rice vinegar. As the name implies, rice vinegar is made by fermenting rice. And it's actually rich in amino acids that other vinegars don't have. And some of those amino acids are polyamines. Polyamines are chains of amino acids that come about from fermentation. And it just so happens that rice vinegar has a really mild taste. It's easy to use, but you're going to get another dose of amino acids that you probably wouldn't get from other vinegars. So it deserves a place in your counter. Now, one of my favorites is sherry vinegar. Now, as you know, sherry is, once again, a product of fermentation and of aging of wines in oak casks, sherry casks. And it's that aging process in the oak that imparts not only the dark color to sherry, but the flavor to sherry. But here's the added bonus. It turns out that oak and wood are loaded with polyphenols. And that dark color is actually the polyphenols that have been leached out of the oak by the acid into the vinegar. So sherry vinegar has kind of a triple dollop of different polyphenols, in addition to the wine polyphenols, the Resveratrol, and it's got this kind of unique, I don't know, nutty flavor, savory flavor that just adds another dimension. You can even find aged sherry vinegars that have been aged in oak casks. So there's all sorts of ways to continue to enhance the basic benefit of vinegar, which is acetic acid. So that's the fun thing. You can layer and layer and layer all these different components into your vinegar. So that brings me to apple cider vinegar. Now, apple cider vinegar with the mother is what you're looking for. So what the heck is the mother? Well, that's basically the lees of apple cider vinegar. Those are the yeast cells that have done their work and are still around. Those contain the postbiotics that you're looking for. So apple cider vinegar is once again another method of getting acetic acid in you, getting a little bit of malic acid in you, but getting these polyphenols and these, for lack of a better word, dead yeast bodies, which are postbiotics. They carry information. So it's another way of getting a fermented food into you. The benefits of apple cider vinegar are that, once again, they foster a healthier microbiome. Interestingly enough, another benefit of any vinegar is because it's an acid, it actually delays gastric emptying. It slows the absorption of sugars. And that may be one way of how apple cider vinegar, and other vinegars for that matter, actually are kind of nature's Ozempic, because Ozempic delays gastric emptying. And the longer you delay gastric emptying, two things happen. Number one, the longer you feel fuller. But number two, the longer it takes for food to reach the rest of your GI tract where food is absorbed. And that's why vinegars and apple cider vinegar, in some studies, show that they reduce hunger, but more importantly, may modulate insulin spikes and glucose spikes, which is exactly what you're looking for from a superfood. So, vinegars deserve a place in your diet every day. Well, if you've been watching my Healthy Coke video, you'll know, hopefully, that I'm actually the father of the Healthy Coke that recently became a rage on viral videos. And what is a Healthy Coke? Well, when I introduced it many years ago on YouTube and in my books, it was taking San Pellegrino sparkling water and adding a tablespoon or two of balsamic vinegar and stirring it around and drinking it like a Coke. And it has a Coke-like color. It has, depending on the balsamic vinegar that you use, a kind of Coke-like taste. But unlike a Coke, the balsamic vinegar has amazing health properties that improves your health rather than ruins your health. Make yourself a healthy Coke. Experiment with the vinegars. You want a sparkling apple cider? Knock your socks off. If you want a champagne vinegar, sparkling, that's fine with me. But get them into your diet. More amazing episodes just like this one. Watch now. And you've got a safe Coke. And the great thing is, that tastes great.